Hello, I'm Jane Fairfax. I'm a psychotherapist in Santa Rosa, California, and I'm here to talk to you today about maybe a little bit about myself. And I wrote this piece not as a poem and not as a soliloquy, maybe a monologue would be best. And it's called The Bench. So I've been asking myself lately, what the hell am I here for? I mean, it's such an odd place with life and death and the planet and human beings, and I didn't know what to do and I didn't know who I was, so I got pissed off and walked downtown and sat on a bench. And I watched all the people going by, and it seemed to me that every single one of them knew who they were and why they were here and where they were going and what they were going to do. And I didn't. And just then a man came and sat down beside me, and he looked really, really sad. And so finally I said, "You look really, really sad." And he said, "Well, why not? Look at all these people going by. Every single one of them doesn't have a clue on why they're here or what they're doing or where they're going or what's going on. And neither do I." And I said, "Yeah, me too." And then he started talking, and he told me all about himself. Who he was married to, where he was born, where he was raised. He talked about his job, why he liked baseball. He talked a lot about baseball. And his wife, and why she didn't cook the stuff that he liked. She cooked Brussels sprouts. And he talked about war and who he should vote for and his new Lexus. And he talked on until the sun started going down and the street lights started coming on. And he stood up and he said, "Well, maybe I better be going home now." And I said, "Yeah, me too." So he left. But the next day I was still pissed off. So I went downtown and he was already there. He was sitting on the bench, and he did what he did the day before. He started talking and talked on about his smartwatch and the cut on his shin and what his kids were doing. And he talked all day until the sun started, going down and the lights and everything. And he stood up and he said, "Well, it's time for me to go home." And I said, "Yeah, me too." And he was there the next day and the day after and the day after that. And he went on telling me everything about himself until finally one day he stood up and he said, "Well, it's been nice talking to you." And he left. And I was just about to go home when a woman sat down next to me. And she looked really, really mad. And finally I said, "You look really, really mad." And she said, "Well, why not? Look at all these people going by. Every one of them knows who they are and what they're doing and where they're going and what they should do. And I don't." And I said, "Yeah, me too." And then she did what the man did. She started telling me all about herself, about her kids and her husband and her family and the PTA and how to make a chocolate cake out of the recipe on the back of the Hershey's cocoa box. She told me all about her lover. And then she said, "Well, it's time to go home because the sun's going down and the street lights are on." And I said, "Yeah, okay, me too." And the next day she did the same thing, just like the man. And the day after that, and the day after that. And she told me all about herself. Until one day, she stood up and she said, "Well, it's been nice talking to you." And she left. And I was just about to go home when someone else sat down. And they did the same thing. And someone after that. And they did the same thing. Over and over. They'd talk about themselves. They'd tell me everything about themselves. And then one day, I looked up and I went, "Oh, I know who I am. I'm the one that sits on the bench and listens really carefully while people tell me all about themselves." And I sipped my Starbucks and I sat back and I relaxed. Footnote: if you don't feel like yourself, and you don't know who you are or where you're going or what you're doing here, find somebody who sits on a bench and listens to everything you say. And then sooner or later, if you're really honest and brave and you listen to yourself without judgment, you're going to look up and say, oh, I know who I am. So, sun's going down and the street lights are coming on, and I think it's time for me to go home. It's been real nice talking to you. Good night.